Hi guys!
Hello.
Welcome to ARLENE Spirit Cast. If you're new to this podcast, we talk about all things related to mindfulness, magic, astrology, tarot, Reiki, meditation, anything in that realm. Today is our Halloween episode. We love Halloween, so this is a very special episode for us, and we thought about how we could do Halloween, but also stay true to our the concept of this podcast without going too paranormal or anything like that, which we get a little woo with this episode. Initially, we were going to seek a guest named Father Sebastian, or we were going to approach him. If you're not familiar with him, he is like a fangsmith, and he is very active in like the vampire community, and he has some books written about like magic and stuff like that in regards to like vampire stuff. And we were thinking about him. There's another person that would have been kind of cool that's along those lines. But we didn't. We changed our mind. We decided that we were going to do something a little bit different, and that is we're going to talk about the concept of like immortals or vampires or what have you, and its connection to like enlightenment and that type of thing. So all throughout history, there have been accounts of certain characters who are alleged, I guess, like immortals or vampires, depending on the lore that you're reading, but there's some sort of tie to like spirituality in those regards. We're also going to do a really quick segment called Vampire or Vegan. So if you didn't get it, this theme of our Halloween episode is vampires.
It's vampires, immortality. But yeah, we have this long-standing joke about it's just eating a more plant-based diet. You're ingesting, healthier things and more nutritious, nutrient-dense things if you're eating whole foods. But it tends to people who look younger than their actual age usually end up being a vegetarian or vegan. It's just a coincidence. And we made a joke out of it. Are they a vampire or are they standard vegan?
Yeah, so it happened, if you guys aren't familiar with the band AFI, there's this guy named Davey Havoc who's the singer, and he looks like really young, and I was joking with her and I'm like, oh my gosh, he looks so young, he might be a vampire. But then their like latest album, they might have a newer album. I don't follow them too closely, but it's all about vampire stuff. And there was actually like a magazine article about how they were kind of getting weird with the vampire theme. And then there was a rumor that he was a vampire, and there's like pictures of him. Apparently he does have like fake vampire fangs. And then we were joking, and she's like, I bet he's just a vegan. And it turns out he is a vegan, so that's what started Vampire or Vegan. So we'll like name celebrities like Jared Leto, Vampire or Vegan.
That's debatable. That's debatable.
He's playing a vampire in a new movie.
He has phenomenal genetics. Well, let's just give him that. Phenomenal genetics.
Phenomenal.
Ageless. But
he's vegan though, I think.
He is definitely 100% vegan, yeah.
Okay.
He is. He's vampire vegan. He's definitely vegan. So it's like a little game we like to play. But when you get into just getting into mindfulness, people tend to look a little bit younger because you're not as stressed out. And stress is a huge component to aging. Mm-hmm. Stress, misery, but if you're vibrating higher, you're happier, so you're not going to age as much. Whatever, that's my theory. I'm sure there's research to back that, but
yeah, I mean there's like this phenomenon where there's people who start a mindful practice, start mindfully eating, and then they start to look a little bit younger. I don't know, that's just
or
like
to stop
thing.
aging.
Yeah, and you notice that with like a lot of vegan people, and the reason why people will adopt a vegetarian or vegan diet whenever they get into like spirituality is because it's believed that the energy, you can take on the energy of suffering from eating meat. Also, there's also the mindfulness aspect where the meat industry is very harmful for the environment. So people will not ingest meat or copious amounts of meat because they want to help the environment, basically. Mm-hmm. It contributes to a lot of like
and the ethics of it.
Yeah, and the ethics of how the
animals are treated and so on and so forth.
So there's like that's like why people will do it, and yeah, that's just why they do it. But sometimes when like with Reiki, I know you're supposed to cut back on meat and alcohol whenever you do certain Reiki practices, and then it is also helpful with like spell work for you to cut back on meat or alcohol prior to doing some like a ritual, and like I said, it's because of that like energy exchange and all of that good stuff. So before we start talking about our immortals, will you tell them where they can find us?
So you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, Tumblr, at ARLENE. That's all linked down below. You can follow us on YouTube. We post Reiki infused videos almost every single day, and we have specific playlists for whatever you need. You can go ahead and go do that as well. And then we send free Reiki out once a month to everybody on our email list. You can sign up on our website to get that, and it's all linked down below. And then we have Reiki at the end of every single episode of the podcast, so you can wait till the end to get that as well. I said as well 12 times. Mm-hmm. It's all good.
Yeah, there you are. All right, so we have an ad, and then we'll start talking about stuff.
All right.
This is not an Anchor ad. That means you are listening to this episode on YouTube. If you're enjoying this podcast, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our podcast is available on all major podcast platforms, including Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Okay, let's get back to the episode. All right, we're back. So, how we got on this line was, as you guys know, I'm an avid Anne Rice fan, and I am very interested in vampire lore. I always have been. I think it's fun. We have our own like fun vampires. So I think one of the creepiest things I've ever had happen to me was I was years ago, I was in like a coffee shop, and I was reading, actually I was reading Anne Rice, I told you guys, I reread that, don't judge me, and I was pretty young, and during that time, there were a lot of these like underground like vampire clubs and stuff like that, and they were kind of like an invite-only type situation, and this guy came up to me, and he was like, oh, like, you like vampires? And I'm like, Anne Rice, Louis, like the usual. And then I remember he slipped me a phone number, and he was like, they're real. And I'm like, sure.
Like, all right, sir.
Yeah. And then he's like, call this number. And I didn't call it because that's sketch. Like, obviously I didn't call it, but that's like how those like underground places would work, is you would get invited, and it'd be like a number that you would call, and then go from there. But I was I was like in high school, like no, like edge of high school. I was
danger.
Yeah, getting ready to go to college. I wasn't like that young, but yeah, stranger danger. That's like a motto: stay woke, don't provoke. So that was like one of my creepier experiences. And then I remember I had an experience at the magic shop around that age.
Just a good old magic shop.
Yeah, I guess I'll tell you guys this story. It's our Halloween episode,
yeah.
As we'll tell ghost stories. So back in the day, there was this guy who everybody was like really like oddly drawn to him, and he was like, he's like this goth kid, and I don't know, everybody just was like drawn to him. They liked him. His name, I'm not gonna tell his name. I can't say his name.
Nope.
But anyways, of course, this dude like works at a magic shop, and so my buddy who listens to this podcast, he was with me, and like we go in out of like curiosity, and he's like trying to sell us, he's like teaching us about like these potions and stuff, and I had heard rumors that he was like some sort of weird like vampire type person, like individual, but I didn't believe that, and we're with my friend, and we're talking to him for a really long time, and we ended up not like wanting to do the potion thing that he was like trying to talk us into, and we left, and we both felt like exhausted, like so tired. And then I realized like he had like energetically drained us. And so I'm talking to like one of my friends at Flash Forward who like knew him, and I'm like, oh yeah, talk about the magic shop, and then she's like, yeah, he's a vampire, and I'm like, okay, but she didn't elaborate. I didn't want her to elaborate. And, weird attracts weird, that's what I think. I think once you start, like, dabbling into, like, weird stuff, you start attracting weird stuff. Because I remember there was a lady who lived in New Orleans who was, like, deadpan serious that they were real.
Oh.
With you.
Oh, yeah. Talking to a normal, very, very normal person who was not involved in anything to do with the metaphysical or occult practices. And she lived in New Orleans, went to college there, and I think she was a bartender, and she swore up and down that they were real. Like, talking, like, pale as a ghost when you mentioned it. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, and she would start to tell stories, and I'm like, nope, I'm good.
No, these weren't the, like, the people who, like, drink blood and feel they are vampires. She was referring to, like, she thought they were straight up, like,
straight up immortals. Like, straight up immortals. Like, it's all real. It all exists. Mm-hmm. And it's here. And, you know, I think there's a lot of backing behind a lot of that stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm excited to see what else gets disclosed coming, you know, in the next couple months, couple years, because I feel like a lot of the things that we think are fantasy actually have the potential of being reality. Mm-hmm. And there's evidence coming out every day. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you know, it's exciting. It's gonna be interesting to see what's coming. But this lady, I'll never forget it. Her face. Mm-hmm. Every time she would bring it up, like, people would ask, like, you know, how was New Orleans? Blah blah blah. And it's dead, you know, pale in the face. Like, she had actual accounts of interacting with some of these beings, and that's totally cool.
Yeah, and the thing, too, is, like, you think you want to, like, know about stuff like that, but then when you're confronted with it, you're like, that's cool, I'm good.
But I always feel like if you're meant to know something, you'll know it. Like, it'll come to you. Like, you don't necessarily have to actively seek it and to use your discernment, and be safe. Like, stay woke, do not provoke. That's a huge saying. You know, we say it all the time. Like, straight up.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot of, like, really cool New Orleans vampire lore.
Oh, I love it. I love the stories. I love it all. I love to hear about it, and I'm excited to go when life is normal and actually do, like, the tours and stuff and get immersed in the culture.
Yeah, there's so many, like, cool, like, there's, you know, obviously there are people who think that the characters in Anne Rice's books are real. There's, like, in the 90s, it was, like, really popular.
I remember in the 90s, like, even the History Channel, like, there was all these networks that would have specials on and, like, do exposés on this, like, underground situations. And you know, you guys can Google.
Yeah, there's a lot of, like, really cool stories. There's, like, more modern ones. There is, like, a really cool one that is from the 90s that involves those, like, underground vampire clubs. And, like, in brief, you guys can Google it. There was, like, a reporter. She claimed that she met a real life immortal, and then so forth. She disappeared, so back to stay woke, don't provoke. But
that's what I was referring to. I didn't want to say it.
I mean, it's more involved. It's interesting. You can Google it if you want. And then like, there's, like, the stories of the Casket Girls. That's a really cool one to look up. There's another one with these two guys. I think they're called, like, the Carter brothers, and they that's another New Orleans vampire tale where it's really dark. You can look it up. Basically, they were drinking blood, and, you know, people that were rescued who had been fed on suddenly had the same types of cravings. And then there are accounts of people seeing these individuals throughout the years. That's another one of those New Orleans vampire lore, though. So, you know, look it up. There's a lot of really cool stuff. If you go there, you know, probably go on a tour. But we're talking about this because there is a lore, there's a vampire lore, and we're going to transition into what we are meaning to talk about, and that is the mystery of the Count Saint Germain. And he was allegedly in New Orleans at some point, and that's how we first heard about this. Like, I was researching spooky stories and stuff, like I do, especially around Halloween, and we were talking about this because we'd found it together, and it was about this guy who was called the Count Saint Germain, and he is an alleged immortal or an alleged vampire, and he was very active in the like French court, or actually it was like multiple European courts, and he was born in the late 1600s, maybe 1700s, and he was a musician, and everybody loved him, and blah blah blah. But what was weird was that he seemed to, like, not age. And then on top of that, so we'll tell you two stories. We'll tell you the vampire story and then the alchemist story really fast. So the vampire one is that he would always drink this red wine, of course. You know, of course he would.
Yeah.
And then he like wouldn't age. And throughout time, there's all these different accounts of reputable, like, real people, like, you know, in history saying they've seen him, and then it's, like, spanning over this long extended from, like, 1700s to 1900s. There's accounts of him. And then the New Orleans, he goes to New Orleans, he has a buddy, And he's on his same usual, like, he's a socialite having parties, but no one ever sees him eat. He just drinks this, like, tea or this wine. And then one day, they hear, like, screams. This girl falls off of his balcony in New Orleans. She claims that he tried to bite her. And then he talks the police out. He's like, no, like, because he's so charming. He's like, I would never do that. Police are like, all right, whatever, go home. And then he disappears, and the police go in, and they find all these bottles with this mysterious red liquid in it, and that's the vampire tale. But then there's the alchemist tale, where people believe he wasn't actually an alchemist, who it wasn't a wine he drank, it was an oatmeal, some sort of oatmeal that he ate, and it was some sort of, like, property, and he had mastered immortality. And then, then there's still these accounts. There's actually a website of people tracking this dude down. It's so cool. And one of the things about him is they said that he would tell stories about the past as if he were there. That's, like, a notable account that people had claimed. They said it was weird. He would just start going off into, like, his head, and he would speak about these old things as if he had, like, lived through it. So there's websites called Finding Count Saint Germain. Okay, this is so fun. But it goes from, like, 600 BC. And he claims he received the staff of Moses in Babylon. Then it goes to 364, and it's saying that he was, like, a missionary and traveled to, like, Cornwall, England. And it goes to the 1300s, Tower of London. We have 1500s, where he spent time studying chemistry in France. Then 1800s, he's, doing some other cool things. And then it goes to 1700s, and that's whenever he, like, was apparently, like, quote, born. Even, like, that's what his, like, birth record was. And this thing goes on and on and on and on. We're seeing it all throughout the 1700s, all throughout Europe. And then, like I said, he ends up making his way to the United States. And then in the 1960s, there was a claim that somebody saw him. So we have 1942, 1960s, 1972, there was a claim that he was around. And then in 2007, there was another claim that somebody saw him. That he just shows up. So whether it was a vampire or an alchemist, whatever. But this is where we get into more, like, New Age stuff. I wonder, and I'm sure you guys have heard of the Saint Germain Violet Flame. Now, this was the Violet Flame is a meditation you can do. You can call in the Violet Flame, and it helps to clear and transmute negative energies and all of that. Every time I do the Violet Flame, I'm always, like, fucked up for a couple days. I have a major healing crisis, it seems. I don't know why. Because
you can just call in the Violet Flame. You don't have to be in meditation.
No, you can call in.
Yeah, you can just call it in.
It clears and transmutes stuff. And it's from, they say, Saint Germain. So I always thought that was a different individual. Mm-hmm. Turns out this Violet Flame we're all doing is from that Saint Germain that is allegedly an immortal. And I found out recently, and I was, like, mind blown.
You were texting me.
Mind blown.
You're texting me. Is Saint Germain classified as an ascendant master?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's some people, so there are two other saints. They're Catholic saints. I'm not Catholic. If I'm messing something up, I apologize. But I had just assumed that we were talking about different Saint Germain because I only knew him as the vampire or the immortal or alchemist or whatever. And then I was reading, because I don't do the Violet Flame that often. Like, at all.
It messes you up a little bit.
I always have a crazy healing, and that's fine. Like, certain modalities and stuff might be different for everybody. But I'm, like, reading on it, and it was talking about how he is considered ascended master, and he has all these different names, and that he was actually extremely enlightened, that it wasn't that he was a alchemist or a vampire or whatever, it was that he had reached, like, a state of enlightenment, and that he shows up throughout history to help humanity, and you can call on him. So it's a big mystery. It's like one of those, like, spooky, like, I don't know. I
think it's wild. But it makes me think, when we talk about stuff like this, it makes me think of that movie on Netflix called The Old Guard.
Yeah.
makes me think of that and how these individuals will incarnate to help humanity in some facet. Mm-hmm. So when you think about it that way, it really makes sense as to why. Because I am sure if you looked at the timelines for when he was allegedly sighted, there might have been great change occurred or advancements in some aspect.
Yes,
I'm
the
confident.
French Revolution. Yeah. So he apparently had psychic dreams, and he had told Marie Antoinette of his prophecies about the French Revolution 15 years before it was like even a thing. He was deeply involved in like French politics. They think that he was partially responsible for Catherine the Great taking the throne. And then they're saying that he would hobnob with all of the high society in Europe and kind of like, you know, make his way into certain circles, which included like the Freemasons and the Rosicrucians and all that stuff. He was definitely involved in occult type of things. He said that he had elixirs that would erase wrinkles and restore his youth. They said that he looked youthful up until middle age. He would like eat. Now this account says that he did like the oatmeal, but there's tea, there's wine, there's oatmeal, there's different things. So people said that he like used some sort of alchemy, something to do that. So they said that they could not figure out how he had established his enormous wealth, and that he was enamored with gemstones, which were basically crystals that he carried everywhere with him. And then he would gift crystals to, like, people. And he would paint them in his art. So he was, like, a musician as well and an artist. You can listen to his music on the internet if you're ever curious, guys. Yeah,
interesting.
I listened to it before.
Did you?
Yeah, it was
probably
like,
encoded.
Probably, man. You can listen to that. They have, you know, if you wanted to play his music, you could. So the other thing about him is some people believe that he is not an immortal, that he has been reincarnating. That's another theory that people have. And that he just reincarnates as the same dude. Like he somehow,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure either way you look at it, there's some sort of, could be some sort of backing to that.
Yeah. Some people believe that Saint Germain attained immortality and that he faked his death to avoid attracting undue attention. And Besant claimed that they had met in 1896. Guy Billard, who pen name Gregory Ray King, wrote The Meeting of Saint Germain on Mount Shasta in the 1930s. Elizabeth Clare was a prophet who wrote and lectured that Saint Germain emphasized her beliefs and that he carried the violet flame to transmutate energies. He's also part of a brotherhood that is supposed to be highly important and has helped institute certain political events, and that there's energy of the likes of Joseph, the father of Jesus, Merlin, Shakespeare, and Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, it's a little dodgy there.
Yeah. We're like,
that's the major native coming out.
Yeah, we're like, I don't know about that. So, yeah, so he's supposedly an important figure for the Ascension movement.
Okay, so what's curious to me about this is that, okay, like you said, that he had, you know, Joseph, Jesus' father, always Merlin, Shakespeare. Like, how many other possible great people that have existed in time could have been in a similar realm of existence as Saint Germain?
I don't know.
I'm just curious about that. Like, I'm sure people listening might have some more info on other, like, figures other than whoever else we're going to mention soon. It's really interesting.
Yeah, they say that. So if the people who subscribe to him being like some sort of master, that he works with Archangel Michael, and that he's a loving, benevolent ascended master who wishes to work with light workers and help to clean up the world. So some of the stuff that he helps with is alchemy, authority figures and influential people, and comfortably interacting with them. He helps give you courage, life purpose. He helps with miraculous manifestations, perseverance, psychic protection, and space clearing. And to invoke him, all you have to do is say his name and say, I need your help. So who knows, you might get a vampire that shows up, or you might get a ascended master.
Yeah. I just think about, like, the times that he was allegedly sought, like,
that he knew Marie Antoinette.
Yeah, like what events transpired before or after his appearances.
Yeah,
that's curious. Very curious.
Who else? He knew Casanova. He knew King Louis, Catherine the Great.
I thought these were two separate people.
I did too. I definitely did too. Oh, it says that he was there with Nero in Rome. Mm-hmm. Prince Charles of Cassel. I don't know how to say that. Cassel. Jeez.
Interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
If anybody else knows anything more about this person, Ascendant Master being, let us know. Mm-hmm. It's curious.
Yeah, so I would definitely think of the...
But so there's accounts of immortal characters like him in many other cultures. And we're going to talk about some more.
And he's not exclusive for, like, a Western. Like, there's two other people that we're not really going to... Because there's no point in going into that because they're not considered Ascended Masters. But there's a couple other people who are apparently hobnob in circles with him. Now, with his legend, too, there is a myth that he gave his secrets of immortality to a couple other close people. But they're not as, like, well-known as him. But there are other accounts of people who are immortal, and one of them is of a 5,000-year-old person whose name is Ashwatthama. Did I say that right?
I believe you said it right. If we said it wrong, we apologize.
So basically, he was one of 8 followers of the god Ruda Shiva, and they were all considered to be the immortal ones in Hinduism, okay? Now, we are not practitioners, though we respect this faith very much, so I apologize if we say anything wrong or if we get anything mixed up, but people to this day claim to see him, but his immortality was a curse because he was a part of a war, and he was the lone survivor of it, and he got, like, really upset and went on a rampage and just started, like, killing everybody, and it upset Krishna, who cursed him to live eternity on earth and never die. And he had a crystal on his forehead when he was one of the 8 immortals that would help him not get sick. Mm-hmm. So he was very powerful, very strong. He had a lot of potential for damage, and he enacted that out of his grief from this war. Like, horrible toll. He killed a lot of people.
Yeah, it was unnecessary violence.
Yes. So, as a result, Krishna cursed him, and he would live eternity on earth, and he would never die. And the crystal he had that protected him from illness was removed. So, he has a wound, apparently, where that crystal was. And there are accounts of it being an actual wound that just doesn't heal, to it just being kind of an indent. And he travels, and it's almost like he's trying to, like, repent, it seems, or to do better, and so that I guess he can have peace. And people have claimed to see him all the time.
Yeah, there's a lot of accounts of him.
Yeah,
but he's been alive for 5,000 years.
5,000 years, yeah.
But there's multiple sightings of him at different temples throughout India, right?
Yeah, throughout India.
Yeah, throughout India.
There might be other
Asian countries, and I'm sure there's other global stories.
Yeah, there might be
about him, but it's wild. So to sum it up, he's repenting for
the destruction
that he caused. So he's been here for 5,000 years, living on the outskirts of society and doing his thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you see a guy at a temple with a forehead wound, it might be him.
Quite possibly.
Okay, and then we have another person who we can't pronounce his name, but they call him Lee. So in the 1930s, there was a New York Times article about a person who said he was 256 years old and that he was born in 1736. So they did more research, and they found that he was actually born in the 1600s in the Sichuan province of China, and that there's an actual letter from the Imperial Chinese government congratulating him on his 150th year. So there's proof that he lived further than 100 to 150, and that he was an herbalist. He had been married 24 times. He has 180 living descendants. And he claimed his secret to his longevity was, like, mindfulness and being a vegetarian and meditation. And then the herbs. So I don't know if he was making, like, an herbal concoction like Saint Germain, those accounts. But somehow he had gained extremely long lifespan, and I'm not sure if he's still alive today, but he might be.
maybe not.
Yeah.
I don't know. But whatever his secrets were, that's some amazing shit.
Yeah. So then the last one we have is, so we had a guest named Karen on our podcast. We had two Karen.
Oh,
what?
So I don't know a lot about Chinese history, but like some of the stories, there was that one emperor, mad emperor, who there were rumors that there were these herbs and plants that would give you immortality. And I can't remember the name of the emperor. Forgive me, guys. He sent people out to look for these herbs and to try to find them, and no one ever could. So what if Homeboy found it?
He just had it. Probably.
Or he had it.
He said he was traveling. They said that he like traveled to all these different places and he would collect herbs.
The emperor, it's the one that did the Terracotta Army and has the fully recreated city, I believe, underground. That's all. It has a river of mercury, and it's so toxic they can't even open it. There's so much mercury in the hill above it. It's this is old.
Yeah, this is Emperor. This is 210 BCE. So this guy might have. What if this guy found it? Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. What if there were actually accounts of herbs that did actually do that, or extended your lifespan, and he found it? Yeah, who knows? He traveled everywhere. It could have been a blend of the herbal mixtures. It could have been his mindfulness, like because that's one of the big things. People who, I guess you can get to a point where you like stop aging or you have control of all of that. Which brings me to the Babaji, who is mentioned in the autobiography of a yogi, correct? Yeah. So we had a former guest who told us to read that, and he, we can like read a little bit about him. So he's known as the deathless avatar because he overcame physical limitations regarding the human lifespan. It's said that he didn't die, but ascended with his physical body. Many accounts of him appearing physically to spiritual seekers have been written. However, he usually comes to those who invoke him on the spiritual plane, and they hear Babaji through thoughts, feelings, or visions. Babaji's mission is to bring humanity closer to God and to follow God's will. He encourages people to follow their own spiritual path and says that all religions lead to God. He encouraged Yoganda to bring Kriya Yoga, which involves 18 yoga postures, also known as asanas or mudras, to the West. It's known as a tool of enlightenment and may have sparked the popularity of yoga today.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so that's this dude. Now, it says that he helps with addictions, cravings, breath work, clear communication with God, manifestation, detaching from material stuff, protection from religious persecution, simplifying your life's spiritual growth, and yoga. So he is also, they're also believed to be others who have achieved this deathless avatar state, apparently. There's like a group of them. And then they said how it works is that he got so enlightened that he was able to like regenerate his body. So he could just regenerate wherever he needed to. And I think that there are accounts of these spiritual people who can also like regenerate in different places, kind of like transporting themselves somewhere else.
Or they can be in two places at once.
Yeah.
Like almost like a hologram, if we're being honest.
Yeah, like the one guy said he regenerates his cells.
Yeah. But how can you be in two places at once, though?
I don't know.
It's like bending of time. I don't know. It's beyond my realm of knowledge, I think it's magical.
The one guy we were listening to speak about him, he said that you get to a state where time is not what like we perceive it to be. You understand the state of reality more, and you're able to like manipulate it. But this dude can do it in a physical form, apparently. So like there's all these things like you ascend and you don't need your body. Doctor Strange. I don't know. Maybe it is. Now, if you wanted to invoke this guy, all you'd have to do is like connect with your heart and then repeat his name, and then you'll hear his name, and there you go. So that is Babaji. Those are the immortals we know about.
that loosely relate to spirituality in some facet.
Apparently, you can become a master alchemist or extremely enlightened and do what you gotta do.
Or you can get cursed to walk the earth forever.
Kill a bunch of people.
Yep. Don't do that. Well, because so there's accounts of like just monks who are able to do amazing feats,
like levitate,
like levitation, or like I think it's in
saints too,
the Himalayas, I believe. There was that one statue, and that there's still like an actual like heartbeat and stuff. Yeah. There's like a monk's like encased in this statue, and there's allegedly a proof of it still living. And then like you said, there's cases of priests and saints and stuff who could levitate and do miraculous healing and so on and so forth. Like, wow.
So you guys are all on a spiritual path. Maybe one of you will
decide to transcend.
This. Yeah.
What? Is it ascend? Is transcend?
Ascend.
It's ascend.
Or transcends the space-time, physical form, whatever. I don't know. It's cool, though, and it's cool that there are these legends, and I think it's awesome, too, that there are accounts of people seeing them and interacting with them, and it's like, wow, like, what if you are interacting with an immortal, like, just a stranger you literally have no idea? Or you could be like that lady that you used to know who said that vampires are real, and then we go back to stay woke, don't provoke. So
get right back to that. At the end of the day, that's a general great rule of thumb. But who knows? The truth will come eventually. Everything's coming to light. What's going to come first, though? Is it going to be aliens? Or is it going to be immortals? Or is it going to be vampires?
I heard this crazy... Before we end the podcast, I'll just tell this other story. So you guys all know about, like, all these, like, secret organizations and whatever. But I remember we were listening to this dude who said that there was, like, an organization of, like, light people, beings or whatever. But they were, like, immortals. And then back to, like, that old guard thing that, like... Some people believe that there are actual, like, watchers who do live forever that, like, help the state of the planet.
Well, why not? Why not? Mm-hmm. If we all have our own team. We have our teams of angels and guides, and
I gotta change this. He's like staring at me. I gotta change.
Yeah, look at that's fine. His very loving eyes.
We have a picture of Babaji up
on the screen. Yeah, and he's just lovingly gazing at
Are you sure about that?
From my angle, it's what it looks like.
Okay,
but what I was saying is that
that's not any better.
Of course, it makes sense to me. Like, it could be possible because we all have our teams of guides and angels, and that are here to help us throughout our existence. So why wouldn't there be other
like a physical one,
a physical incarnations of it, or just in general? Like, why, if we're helping someone all on a personal level, why wouldn't there be these guardians, whether it be elementals or whatever you want to call it, or any, whatever realm we're talking about? Why wouldn't there those safety nets be in place to help humanity? We have the law of free will, but and we are on Mother Gaia right now, and there's a lot of other things at work other than just our 3D plane. So I think to me it makes sense. I'm like, why not? Why not have, like, old guard style characters exist? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm a believer.
I think, I don't doubt anything. Sometimes the craziest things are going to be in reality. Well, the other thing too is, if you think of like, we are extending our lives the longer we live. So maybe one day there is something.
Well, yeah.
Or
I mean, the life, even from when we were little, the lifespans almost doubled.
Yeah,
that's kind of a stretch, but it's expanded. People are living past 100, whereas before people weren't even living past 70. So stay blessed.
Yeah. Enjoy Halloween. We hope you liked our spiritual Halloween episode about
possible immortals, vampires, or vegans.
Yeah.
Definitely, if anything to take away from this, is definitely adapt a mindfulness practice, because it will help you in any way. It could possibly help slow your aging.
Look better, feel better.
You look good, you feel good.
All right. Now, at the end of the episode, we have Reiki. So keep listening for the Reiki, and it'll start when the music changes. You might want to go home and listen to it. Don't drive, could make you sleepy. We always give that warning. I
Some people say fuck it.
Yeah, full disclosure, I've driven with Reiki. But just, if you want to meditate to it, that's always good. Yeah, we recommend our clients meditate when we do the distance stuff. But, yeah, thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.